Oklahoma was ravaged. A riot occurred. It was called the Tulsa, Oklahoma Race Massacre. 300 black businesses were bombed and burned down to the ground. Why did it happen? All because of a lie. Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program. According to the Guardian in the U.S. News section, the headline reads, the U.S. Justice Department announces an investigation into the Tulsa Race Massacre. Review of 1921 massacre comes months after Oklahoma Supreme Court dismissed a lawsuit brought by two survivors. Isn't that something? 100 years later, out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they still don't want to acknowledge what happened. If that had been any other group of people, it would have never taken 100 years just to have an investigation take place. It was a travesty. It was abominable. 300 black businesses, they called it the Black Wall Street back then. Envy, jealousy, vitriol. Coming from who? From the racists and the bigots at that time. Because they saw black people prospering and doing great and wonderful things. And all because of a lie. A young black boy was arrested because of an outright lie. So according to the U.S. Guardian, last Monday, the U.S. Department of Justice, or the DOJ, announced it plans to launch the first ever federal investigation into the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, in which hundreds of black Tulsans were killed, thousands were displaced and forced into internment camps, overseen by the National Guard. And Greenwood, the thriving district once known as Black Wall Street, was decimated, looted, and burned by a racist mob. Internment camps. Remember when they interred the Japanese and Asian people in internment camps? That's what they did with the black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Why didn't they inter the people who incited and burned these businesses down to the ground? The review, launched by the Civil Rights Division Cold Case Unit, comes after a major setback for survivors and descendants of the massacre. In June, Oklahoma's all-white Supreme Court, might I add, dismissed a lawsuit brought by two survivors, Leslie Benningfield Randall, who is 109 years young, and Viola Fletcher, 110 years young. In July, the women once again called for Joe Biden and the Justice Department to intervene. Christine Clark, the Assistant Attorney General who announced the DOJ review, called the Tulsa Race Massacre, quote, one of the deadliest episodes of mass racial violence in this nation's history. If this had happened to any other group of people here in America, reparations would have been given to them without hesitation and without question. They would have been compensated for the wrong. They would have been compensated for the injustice. They would have been compensated for the vitriol and the racism that was brought against them. This is why we must have our own voting pack, political access committee. And then that way, we sponsor, endorse, and help candidates who have our best interest at heart. We need to stop begging people, stop pleading with people. You can march up and down the streets all you want, but you better have that green power, baby. Money talks, and everything else, the BS walks. You know it and I know it. America is a capitalistic society. Right now in this presidential race, billions of dollars are being spent on both sides. Why would somebody spend billions of dollars for a job that only pays over maybe close to $300,000 a year? It's about power. It's about control. And Trump only wants to be president for one reason, so he can shut down every pending investigation against him. Impending investigation. investigation against them. You all can keep buying that big lie that he cares about you if you want to. Back to the article. We honor the legacy of the Tulsa Race Massacre survivors, Emmett Till, the act that bears his name, this country, and the truth by conducting our own review and evaluation of the massacre, Clark said, announcing that the review should be finalized by the end of the year. We are thus examining available documents, witness accounts, scholarly and historical research, and other information on the massacre. When we have finished our federal review, we will issue a report analyzing the massacre in light of both modern and then existing civil rights law. In a statement back in June, Fletcher and Randall said, "We are deeply saddened that we may not live long enough to see the state of Oklahoma or the United States of America honestly confront and right the wrongs of one of the darkest days in American history." Now, I knew about the Tulsa race riots when I was a teenager. I read a book called Black Wall Street. They didn't teach me this in school because that inferior education that they tried to cram down my throat, I wasn't having it. I told my mother, I'm not having it. Look, allow these teachers to say anything to me out of their racist mouths. I'll study and research for myself, which I have been doing ever since then. Stop depending upon the school system to educate your children. You teach them yourself. And if you're not concerned with public education, take them out. Put them in schools that address our culture, our heritage, our concern. Stop begging those people to be integrated into their schools. Stop it. Integration created more problems than you could ever imagine. Now back to this article. They said they may not live long enough to see the state of Oklahoma or the United States of America honestly confront and right the wrongs of one of the darkest days in American history. At 109 and 110 years old, we are elderly, and we know that we are living on borrowed time. Oklahoma and the United States of America have failed its black citizens. This failure is profound, systemic, and marred by lip service and clever platitudes. Clark said that there was no expectation that there is anyone still living who may be prosecuted as a result of the inquiry, regardless for descendants and survivors who have not been compensated for the massacre and its ongoing consequences. The inquiry's announcement was still worth celebrating. It is about time, Demario Solomon Simmons, the lead attorney for the Tulsa Race Massacre survivors, said during a press conference. It took only 103 years. Phew. This makes no sense. But this is a joyous occasion, a momentous day, an amazing opportunity for us to make sure that what happened here in Tulsa is understood for what it was, the largest crime scene in the history of this country. And while we're at it, don't forget about Rosewood either. That's another story for another time. Never surrender. Never quit.